What's up, guys? It's been quite a while. It's been over 6 months since ZCT number 11. We're back here. Matt, as you guys remember, was ZCT number 12. And we don't really have any like super specific topics to talk about this time, but we wanted to get the ZCT ball rolling again after half a year hiatus. And so one of the things I want to talk about today is, and I've been getting a lot of questions about this over the past couple months because I've been actually very hush hush about it because of just all the terrible, unlucky things that have been happening to me in my cars, I guess you could say, which it kicked off with me selling my BMW on Bring a Trailer.
Right.
And I already kind of made a video about this, but I'll just recap basically what happened. And you remember this, I wanted to sell a car and Bring a Trailer because I thought I could get good money for it.
Sure.
Turns
As
out
anyone who sells on Bring a Trailer,
Right.
I think mostly they think they would turn the best amount of, bidding compared to Craigslist.
Because, if you have a relatively rare car, I mean, you don't want to really deal with tire kickers on Craigslist.
Right.
You want to get a fair price for your car, and you want it to go to someone who will actually appreciate it. So Bring a Trailer is literally perfect for that.
Mm-hmm.
As a seller, you only have to pay $99 for the cheapest, entry of posting your car, where you provide all your own photos. Someone will write up a post for you and post the auction for a week, right? Super easy to do. But I fell for the mistake of not putting a reserve on my car and I'm not going to blame Bring a Trailer for suggesting this, but the person I was talking to suggested that I don't put a reserve because these cars typically sell for more without a reserve, because as a buyer, you'll see if the car has a reserve or not once the auction's live. So I didn't put a reserve on it. Long story short, I sold it for about probably 30 to 50% less than I thought it was worth, which at the end of the day wasn't a big deal. I was a little bummed about it, but at least I talked to the seller or the buyer over the phone. He seemed like a cool guy. So although he was all the way out in New York, so he's having a friend in the Bay Area come over to my house on a Monday night to pick up the car, right? Mm-hmm. So it's okay, cool. So I'm not going to drive the car on Monday to work. So I drive my S2000 to work. And this is where everything starts going downhill.
This
and
is where it gets crazy.
Well.
This gets crazy.
It gets crazy. So I'm on my way back from work. It's 5:30 in the evening. I'm meeting the guy who's going to pick up the car at my house at 6 or 6:30. I am 2 blocks from my house. And my neighborhood is not the best. My street is actually pretty nice. The houses are nice, but the surrounding area is not the greatest.
Sure.
And a lot of vandalism, there's a lot of package thieves, people keying cars left and right. A lot of stuff happens on that street if you leave your car parked out there. But at this point I was whatever, the car's only going to be here for a few more hours. Let me just make it home, hand the keys to this guy, and I'll be done with it, right?
Right.
So I'm driving my S2000, 2 blocks from my house, 4-way stop sign, and I literally take this particular street I have 10 different streets I can use to take home. I picked 19th Street because it's the one that has where every intersection is a 4-way stop. Yeah. Because the other ones, you have to kind of wait and make sure it's clear before you go. This one, whoever gets to the stop sign first goes. So I get to my stop sign first. I start driving. So in my peripheral vision, I see there's an SUV there, right?
Yeah.
But I got there well before she got there. So I'm okay, I got here first. I'm just going to start going. Then all of a sudden I look over and she's also going. So I'm I'm in my S2000. There's no torque, right? I'm in second gear, probably 2,000 RPM. I'm oh God, I got to get out of the way. So I floor it. Of course, nothing happens because there's no torque. And sure enough, she accelerates into me. I'm pretty sure she was not even looking at my direction. She was just on the gas. So she T-bones the rear passenger side quarter panel. Then, we pull over and make sure everything's okay. She had a kid in the car. Everyone's all right. It was a low speed impact. But basically she wouldn't own up to the fact that it was her fault. So this is where this whole thing begins. It's now I got to deal with her insurance, which is AAA, and basically try to convince them that it was her fault.
Right.
And of course, there's no evidence other than the photos I took. And I tried calling SJPD to file a police report, but then the lady straight up told me you don't need to do that because in California, you don't have to file a police report if no one's injured or something like that, right?
Sure.
So I call her insurance, I call my insurance, try to get them talking to each other. It took 2 months for this thing to get settled, but I'll get to that point in a bit. So at this point, that car still drives, but the bumper's hanging off. Like, I don't want to deal with it. And it's not safe to drive, like, commute with. So I just leave it in my garage at that point.
And that's the first domino, basically.
That's the first domino.
After selling of your BMW on Bigger Trailer,
Right.
this was like the first domino that started a whole chain of events
Chain
to
of
where you are
dominoes
today.
To where I am
it's
today.
Pretty
And
crazy.
It's still going.
Yeah,
Like,
it's still going.
So I limp the car home, right? Put it in my garage. The guy shows up to pick up the BMW. He sees the S2000. He's like, "Oh yeah, that sucks, man." I'm like, "Yeah, it kind of does. Here's the keys."
Just like
So he drives the BMW away. Thankfully, like, no one, I don't know, smashed into my car like while I was on my street right before the guy picked it up. That would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
So at this point, all I have is a broken S2000 and my NSX. So I literally only have one car I can drive to work, which is the NSX, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
But it has to. I have to make it happen, right?
Right.
And by this time, it's like already to the point where, by like, it's like still pitch black outside until around like 7 a.m., like 6:30 to 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave for work around 5:30 in the morning, right? So I get in my NSX the next morning, Tuesday morning. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I get on the freeway, and within 1 mile from my house, I'm getting onto the freeway, and like, my NSX has the original 1991 headlights, right? So they're not very bright.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's very low to the ground. And all of a sudden, there's this huge object that just like basically appears in the middle of the freeway. And like, there's no one around me, but I didn't have nearly enough time to like react to it and swerve out of the way.
Right.
So sure enough, I go into it at like 65 miles an hour, send this huge like basketball-sized object flying, launched through the air, and it was heavy. Whatever it was, I still don't know what it was, but it was heavy. And at this point, I am furious. I'm just like swearing like nobody's business. So I just get off to the side of the road. I look at my car. Now my bumper's just hanging off, right?
That was crazy. Yeah, you like texted us or whatever. You sent us. It was just like in my mind, I was like, "Are you serious? This is really happening?"
I know.
Like, with the BMW thing, and then the S2000 thing, and then your NSX of all cars.
All three of these events happened within a span of 10 hours.
Yeah,
like no
I
kidding.
could not. I was just like, "What in the world's going on?"
Yeah.
You know?
So at this point, I'm like, okay, let me just like make this work. So I zip tie the bumper back on, drive it to work. And over the next few days, while I'm still waiting for insurance to play out on the S2000, I still have to drive to work. I can't work from, like, my job doesn't let me work from home every day.
Right.
So I'm just driving around the zip-tied NSX for like a week. And then that weekend, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go test drive some cars because I need a car like now. And I was already planning to get a new car anyway. That's why I sold the BMW. So that's why I ended up getting the Porsche Cayman. So I talked about that in another video, so I won't go into depth on that. So I got that, and I was like, okay, now I can deal with the NSX. I get that figured out. My insurance covered it, obviously, but I had to pay like $1,000 out of pocket for the deductible because sourcing a new bumper for an NSX is not a cheap thing to do. So the NSX is in the shop. The S2000's waiting on insurance to accept liability. Driving the Cayman. And then I want to say this is about, 5 or 6 weeks ago. So only a few weeks after all this happened, I parked my Cayman in front of my house, right? Because the NSX is taking the garage space.
Right.
And I went out of town for a few days to go film with Race Chip. And when I got back, I was driving my car around for at least like 2 or 3 days. And I didn't notice anything wrong with it.
Right.
Until I parked it at work, and one of my friends at work sent me a picture. He was like, "Dude, your car has a massive dent in it." I was like, "No, it does. Like, you have to be kidding me right now. Like, I'm sure it's just like the reflection of the light or something, right?" He's like, "No, dude, there's a huge dent in it." So sure enough, there's a dent in it, and at this point, I'm just like,
"Dude, someone's out to get you." Someone's out to get you.
Yeah, someone's out to get me. Whatever. Like, this is. I'm just gonna have to like figure out what to do about this. I was already like kind of accepting in my mind that I would have to pay another however many $100 deductible.
Because it was a fender, right? For
yeah,
your
it was
Porsche.
the front fender on
Yeah.
the driver's side had a huge dent in it. So I drove that home, and then while I was about to park on my street, I saw this guy, one of my neighbors, who I've never talked to before, but I know he has like a pretty nice car that he parks right around where I park my car. Mm-hmm. I just like go up to him and I just wanted to ask him if he knew what happened. And before I even asked the question, he was like, "You're asking about the dent in your car, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yeah, so 3 nights ago, like on Saturday night, while I was in LA, while my car was parked there, this Uber driver at night dropped someone off on a driveway and then backed into my car, noticed what happened, and sped off. And my neighbor saw the whole thing go down.
Right.
He heard the thunk, turned around. He said it was a black Mercedes with an Uber sign on it, just sped off. And at this point, I'm like, maybe I can actually like find this guy, right?
Sure.
I asked my other neighbors, because they have a front door camera, to scan the footage, and they scanned it, and it seems like they actually found the car that hit me, but it was so dark outside and the camera quality was so crap that like there was, the photos were crap, but I took I took screenshots, and then I actually I contacted Uber, but they just immediately like denied it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they're like, you can't like prove anything, and we don't see any car that matches that description. I was like, that's probably BS.
Don't see any car that matches.
Right. Like don't see any car,
Yeah,
but at this point I'm just like, whatever. So end of story, there's still a dent in my car. I haven't fixed it yet.
Right.
And then to make matters even worse, a few weeks ago, actually I think I was with you.
Yep, you were.
We were just like driving my car or whatever, and then all of a sudden, like,
I was driving.
you were flooring it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the first time you're driving a car, and all of a sudden the revs just go all the way up to red line.
Yeah, it just slips. Like I like put my foot down. I think it was like, in second or whatever, third, and then I put it down, and it would go to like 4 or 5K, and then it would just vroom.
Yeah, all the way to red line. At first I was like, you just push the clutch? Like, what just happened?
What did I do? Yeah, I did nothing.
Yeah.
I just put my foot down.
Yeah. And then when I was driving home that same night, I just floored it too, and then it started slipping. So it turns out a spring in the clutch broke. So the clutch disc itself actually wasn't completely worn out, but because that spring broke, it just wasn't making full contact with the pressure plate when you're not pushing the clutch in. So I literally just got the car back yesterday. So up to that point, I was daily driving the NSX for almost a month. It was the most stressful month of my life in terms of driving like a car to work.
Well, especially with all the other things that had happened.
All the other things that happened. I was just waiting
like
for like a lightning bolt to just come down from the heavens and just like strike me.
Oh my god.
So this was supposed to be a short story. It ended up being pretty elaborate, but that's basically what happened. So the S2000's gone, by the way. So I actually decided, so insurance finally owned up to it. AAA owned up to it. So they paid me, they basically paid me for the repairs, and I chose not to repair the car. And so I just pocketed that check, and then I sold the car
in
to
its current
someone
condition.
in its current condition, crashed and everything, to someone in the area who already knew, who basically, he rebuilds S2000s and parts them out and stuff. So luckily I took all the nice parts off, or pretty much all of them, like the big brake kit, obviously the wing I had already taken off before that, the wheels, the Olins, the seat. Yeah, so I actually have sold like at least half of that stuff already, and I still have like just the big brake kit and the wing to sell. And I have potential buyers for them already. So it's like actually kind of working out.
Yeah, like you were telling me, like the price that you've sold everything and the money that you gotten from insurance and everything is kind of equating to what you were thinking about the sale price.
Yeah, like
it's unfortunate because the car is no longer in the car world.
It would have been cool to see it like someone else keep building it and tracking it, but in terms of, I netted out. Yeah. Let's just put it that way. So I netted out basically what I was hoping to get even before the crash happened.
Right.
So that's done. I'm down to 2 cars. One of them has a new clutch and a giant dent in it. The other one has a brand new front bumper that was just installed.
And that's kind of like the update.
So that's the update on that. Okay, not going to talk about that anymore. Because I wanted
So,
to keep
yeah.
it hush hush. I just didn't want to bring too much attention to it.
Right. Well, plus a lot of things were going, on at the time. You couldn't really like stop and just, take a look at everything and like just describe it all. It's
Yeah.
just like it was, continually working with insurance.
Yeah.
Continually working with shops to fix whatever. It was insane.
Yeah, I
couple
couldn't
months.
talk about it in an objective way until now. Because now it's like 90% like done.
Yeah. So now it's just the dent.
Getting the dent
in
fixed, which ultimately I don't think... Yeah, I got to get some estimates on it.
But it's a Porsche and
It's
who
not going
knows?
to be cheap.
Yeah. You're gonna hit your deductible.
You're definitely going to hit my deductible.
Wow. That was 17-ish or 12 minutes. Or so.
Maybe we just make this one video.
This is the update video.
This is number 12.
And then
Okay.
we'll do another one with the other topics.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll catch you in the next one.